my name is Raina and I'm pleased to present Perspective and Psychology. Today we'll be focusing on two major perspectives in psychology. The behavior humanistic perspective. The word psychology means the scientific study of the mind and behavior, and it has various perspectives throughout history that have influenced how psychology understands, research and apply knowledge of human behavior. The behavior perspective focuses on observable, measurable behavior and environmental factors that influence behavior and learning, whereas the humanistic perspective focuses on internal experience, personal growth, and the nature of potential of all humans. Presents will describe both perspective, assesses each of its underlying assumptions, discuss several key theorists and their contributions, compare their similarities and differences and their appropriateness in an overarching approach to contemporary psychology. By the end of the presentation, I hope you will comprehend how these perspectives differ, as well as how they complement each other in contribution of our understanding of human behavior. Okay, so now we're going to introduction. Perspective in psychology can be characterized as different lenses or frameworks for understanding human behavior. They shape both search method, pragmatic intervention, and how we interpret experiences. The behaviorist perspective emerged around the early 20th century as a rejection of introspection. Understanding perspective in psychology is necessary on the needs of an umbrella, not only the implication of achieving psychosocial healing in therapeutic or educational context, but as well as policies for social development and research methods. We don't have time to elaborate on each of approaches in detail today, but the behavioristic perspective is in the next as we'll consider. Behavioristic perspective description. The behavior perspective only look at observable behavior and not at the person's rational and feelings. And perceived behavior are learned through the environment. As such, there are two types of conditioning from which the approaching is drawn. First is classic conditioning, derived from the study or event power with the dogs. The Powell's experiment, he conducted numerous studies. Via modification, students need to know what behavior the teacher wants them to repent in order for the student and teacher to reinforce behavior produced by the student. For example, if student received praise and social approval for behavior a certain way or in a certain context, then the student may want to repeat the praise or be just seek the reward. Behaviorist perspective evaluation of key assumptions. The central assumptions of behaviorism includes that all behavior is acquired through the environment. People are born with no innate knowledge, and that all behavior can be influenced through the use of their reinforcement of publishment Two of the most prospective attributes of these assumptions are that they have provided an empirical and scientific basis for the study of behavior, and therefore provide an empirical base of measuring, testing, and re-implicate. The emphasis placed on observable action as contributed to psychology recognition as a science. In addition, many of the ideas developed under behaviorism has been applied in practical. For an example, education practice, behavior modification, and therapies for phobias and addiction based to learn theory. Even Pavel, classic conditioning, and B.F. Skinner, operant conditioning, are the two most significant contributors of behaviorism. Pavlov's study of classical conditioning has the merit of providing an experimental base of understanding how association can occur between stimulus and response. This was demonstrated through Pavlov's ability to predict and measure learning. Skinner studied the operant conditioning further our knowledge in the area through demonstrating the shaping of voluntary behavior with reinforcement schedules, and laid the groundwork of behavioral therapies used today. However, both has the disadvantage of being limited. For example, Pavlov's studies for classical conditioning is criticized for its reliance of animal subjects, while conditioning response in dogs can demonstrate associations between stimuli and response. They cannot provide a full presentation of the complexes associated with learning in human. Similarly, although Skinner's theory provides a systematic approach to studying behavior, it has been reduced to a simple response to a stimulus and does not count for internal motivation or social influence. Critics also point out that Skinner minimized the role of human creative and autonomy when they developed this theory. Overall, Pavlov and Skinner made some very important scientific contribution. However, their theories will not provide a complex explanation of human learning and neglect aspects of internal congregation and individual differences. Humanistic perspective description. Humanistic psychology originated in the 1950s and 1960s as a reaction of behaviorism and psychoanalysis. They emphasizes free will and human growth and capabilities, whereas behaviorism may access behaviors that are observable. Humanistic psychology is interested in internal experience and feeling rates. Key concepts are self-assimilations, the idea that individuals are motivated by personal fulfillment and people are essential good Humanistic has inspired theory. Humanistic psychology is interested in internal experience and feeling states. Key concepts are self-actualization, the idea that individuals are motivated by personal fulfillment and the person are essentially good. Humanism has inspired therapeutic practice, education, and motivation in the workplace, with the aim to create environment that allow people to grow and take chances to research their potential. An example, and humanistic practice is a personal center therapy where clients are invited to explore their feeling and experiences, leading to the self-discovery and potential development. Ideas such as self-actualization and personal growth are vague concepts that can be difficult to define and or measure in object manner. Therefore, limiting humanistic psychology's ability to support empirical based testing. Additionally, the idea of free will has been challenged by data collected by neuroscientists would report that many behavior are the result of unconscious or automatic process. While the humanistic perspective contributes positive to psychology by providing a sense of optimism and warmth, at times humanistic psychology is limited by its inability to be projective for the purpose of conducting experimental and or predictive research. Humanistic perspective key theories. Two of the most prominent advocates of humanistic psychology, Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow, has also been two of the most influential psychologists in history. While one of the strengths of Rogers' personal center therapy is that they developed an approach based upon three elements: empathy, unconditional positive regard, and concurrence. The impact of this was to empower clients to work out their own solution of issue they were experiencing, and so transform counseling. Another of the strengths of Maslow's hierarchy of need ones that provided a clear hierarchical model of human motivation and development, which could be applied in many different areas of society: management, education, health. However, both Rogers and Maslow have some weakness in relations of their models. One of the criticism of Rogers' model is that it relies very much upon the ability of the therapist and the willingness of the client to develop the relationship and engage with the therapeutic process. Similarities and differences. Behaviorism and humanism each provide a unique beneficial perspective into the study of behavior. They also are useful in creating therapeutic and educational environments. Both behaviorism and humanism seek to help individuals achieve improved functioning. Behaviorism achieves this through the use of conditioning and reinforcement, while humanism does so through empathy and self-actualization. Therefore, both theories provide an important contributions to improving individual well-being and overall social behavior. However, the philosophical basis of the two theories are vastly different. Behaviorism is a deterministic theory that states all human behavior is shaped by environmental stimuli and learned responses. Behaviorism emphasizes objective control and empirical observation. That's how for experimental control. However, behaviorism lists the concept of free will and emotional influence on behavior. Behaviorism emphasizes objective control and empirical observation that allow for experimental control. However, behaviorism limits the concept for free will and emotional influence on behavior. In contrast, humanism believes in the essence for free will, subjective and human agency. According to humanism, humans can direct themselves towards growth and self-improvement. Behaviorism has the strength of empirical rigor and predictability. Behaviorism may appear cold and unfeeling. Conversely, humanism addresses the emotional and essential components of human behavior. However, humanism does so at the expense of scientifically verifiable research methods. As a result, and psychologists combine the two theories using the empirical based accurate of behavior and the empathetic or compassionate aspects of humanism. The combined model results in more complete description of human nature, providing both objective and subjective view of humanity. So, in conclusion, both behaviorism and humanism perspective will influence in varying degree our understanding of human behavior. Behaviorism and predictable, measurable, and observable behaviors in the internal environment. The specific are clear and valuable of psychologists. Humanism in holistic and offers opportunities of growth, self-actualization, and illustrates the importance of good internal experience that is inherent in the best of us. The two are great. The two together emphasizes both an empathically better understanding to psychology. Human behavior cannot fully appreciate it and in an evidence-based or scientific way. Perception and feeling are agreeable. The focus of true human experience in psychologists, educator, therapists, and the like can come to an appreciation of this perspective. We can apply the best strategy to employ in such methods or our real life instance of interpersonal interaction. I hope this presentation has conveyed enough outline of humanism and behaviorism so that one or both may be useful and enhance appreciation to the foundation of psychology.